podcast host and speaker with an expertise in helping people discover, cultivate, and share their gifts to life. She's a born communicator that's always learning, always curious, and always connecting with people. As a speaker for over 20 years for corporate and nonprofit entities, she's finally sharing her voice and her message with audiences to inspire confidence and move forward with intentional actions. Fun fact, Robyn spent 3 years competing in Olympic weightlifting in the Masters Women 63 kilogram weight class and qualified for nationals in 2018. And she loves dark chocolate and sea salt caramels. Please welcome Miss Robyn Koenig.
Thank you so much, Lupe. I appreciate the introduction. Let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick. All right, thumbs up here if y'all can see this. Excellent. Great. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be speaking today. It's interesting because this actually was something that I worked with Kathleen a year ago to book this speaking opportunity. And here we are a year later, and I truly believe there's so much relevancy here in the kinds of information that I'm going to share with you today. So I'm just so excited. I can't even believe it's been an entire year. So there we go. Okay. So before I get started, I want to share just a little bit about myself so I can do a little introduction. And Lupe shared a little bit about myself, but primarily I'm a mom. That's my number one job, my number one joy in life. I have 4 teens and a very active blended family. So think Brady Bunch minus 2. And we all live here in Carlsbad. I'm a wife to an amazing man who puts up with a lot of my crazy. So I truly appreciate him so much. I am a certified professional coach. So I'm a CPC, an ACC, an ELIMP. All of that alphabet soup just basically means that I put the time and energy into getting a credential from one of the top institutes in the country called IPEC. And this was about 20 years after getting my bachelor's degree from Indiana University. I'm a public speaker. I'm a born communicator. My parents realized this at the age of 4 when I was earned the nickname The Mouth. So if you want to know more about that, feel free to ask me later. I'm a podcast host. I launched my podcast back in last October, actually. Brett is very familiar because he has been a guest on my show, and that actually went live this week. So you can take a listen for that. I'll do a no shame plug here. It's called Rare Find Voices. You can find that on Apple, iHeart, Google Play. I'm a business owner. I understand what it takes to build something from scratch. I am in the business of doing what I love in the service of people who love what I do. And that's truly why I love being a small business owner. And I am a self-improvement junkie. You know, I'm fascinated with anything and everything that's going to help me improve myself and my life every single day. And these are all based on things that I've learned in my journey, which is exactly why I'm here today, is to share that with you all here. So, like I mentioned before, a year ago, I sat down with Kathleen and talked about the opportunity to share some insights. And as a business, I work as a consultant and a coach for small business owners. And what that truly means is that as a consultant, I help small businesses understand where there might be gaps or weaknesses in their business, along with the strengths, and how we can work together to close those gaps and give them some of those ideas and solutions and a roadmap to solve some of the things that they're struggling with. As a coach, I help them get through when they get stuck, because that will ultimately happen along the way when you're trying to solve a problem. So today I'm going to focus on the coaching side of my business. And what I teach is really for everyone. It's for all types of industries, all types of business models, whether you're a solopreneur, you know, you're in a corporation, whether you work virtually or you have brick and mortar, or you're just starting or you've been around for 10 years. I'm only exclusive to people that want to affect change. Personal leadership is about you taking responsibility for you, and nobody else can do that. It's a choice, it's a mindset, and it's a belief that you are in the driver's seat. And so I want to leave you with something today. Maybe it's a new idea. Maybe it's I like to call them nuggets, a nugget of inspiration, a new way to look at something. I consider myself to be a navigator. And so I'm going to take you on a journey today to explore some new ideas. And truly what I want to do, and my whole reason for even joining the chamber, was to impact other people in my local community. So when I was 5 years old, I had the best wardrobe. It consisted of these. Anybody remember what these are? Underoos. I loved these. I wore them pretty much every single day. And when I was wearing these, I truly believed I was the superhero of whatever I was wearing. Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Batgirl, Princess Leia, I'm not really sure about that one, but okay. And all it took was a little spandex, and I stepped into the power that I knew I had to accomplish amazing things, at least until kindergarten, right? But what if we had something that we could carry with us, or an article of clothing, something that helped us tap into those superpowers every single day? Well, we do. They're called our gifts. And understanding your gifts is the key to using them as your superpowers. But we don't tap into them all the time. We don't tap into them for so many reasons. And quite often it's because of something that we've learned along the way, especially as we become adults. You know, we're going to talk about some of those barriers. But as kids, we don't necessarily feel that. And so I like to try and work with people and understand, well, what are those things that we can do, that we can take with us, that truly are the tools to tapping into the things that we can do so much better and more powerfully in our life if we just let go of something, if we removed some of those barriers. And so in our lives, there's so much information coming at us. We have a very limited capacity to process it. We just really only process a very small bit of it. And so in order for us to really make an impact, we've got to process out the unnecessary stuff and focus on the things that are going to be more intentional and more important to change our life. And at the root of all this are what we believe. It's the thoughts that we have and the beliefs that are going to allow us to open up those ideas or those possibilities. So one of my favorite quotes here is, the only limits that you have are the limits that you believe. And I truly do look at my world through this lens. And so what we think about something affects how we feel, or the emotion associated, which then has an effect on the action or the reaction that we have to a situation. It's a constant flow. That's why I have those arrows there. It starts with the thought of the belief, which moves into a feeling or emotion, which then results in an action or reaction and goes straight back to another thought or belief. And so here's an example. Try to think about something really, really positive, and then think about, well, how does that make you feel? What does that really stir up for you? And then what would you do based on that thought and that feeling? Now that you have that in your head, think the opposite. Believe the opposite, something not so positive. And when you think about that, do you have the same feeling or the same belief that you could turn it into a positive action? It's unlikely. That's a really difficult thing to do, to have a negative belief or thought and have a positive associated action. And so we really need to create a paradigm shift, right? Paradigm being a model, a pattern. It's not about changing the result. It's about changing the system to achieve that result. That's where the gold, the nugget lies. So when something happens, when you do something and you see a result, that feels pretty good, right? It builds confidence. It actually motivates you to want to do it again, right? Or do it more often. So what happens when those results aren't what you expect or what you really desired? How do you feel? What don't you want to do? Has an impact, right? So if you're able to change the thought or the story or the belief around what that is, you will change that action. Now, the word intention, and I share this because Brett knows very well that I love words, and so I'm going to be sharing words with you today. The word intention means a mental state representing a commitment to action. That's what an intention is. And I love the word intention more so than a goal, because a goal is a destination that you're going to go to, but an intention is the way that you're going to show up to do it. So if you put the word positive intention in that, that's a positive mental state that you're committing to. Negative intention, that's the opposite, right? And so behind every system of actions are a system of beliefs. And so most behaviors are impossible for you to change without shifting the beliefs behind them. And it may not last very long if it's not in alignment with that new belief. So I want to share a quick story, and this was actually shared in my introduction. In 2010, I discovered fitness. I did not grow up as an athlete or playing sports. And I had been through a significant change in my life. And I decided to step into something really, really different for myself. And I started to train. And I actually realized a new belief that I was pretty darn good at it. And so I was pretty good at it physically. I was actually really good at it mentally, and I trained harder. I was seeing the results of my work. And in 2014, at the age of 40, I stepped onto the first platform, weightlifting platform, to compete. And I competed in Olympic weightlifting. And I managed to qualify for nationals 3 consecutive years in a row. My point of this is not to share how cool that is. It was a really exciting and fun and whole new experience for me as a mom and, you know, a woman who had just turned 40. But my point here is that I never believed that I was an athlete until I saw the result of what I was able to do differently. And had I not believed that I was, or been proud of that feeling, the emotion that I had associated with it, had I thought that I was too old, that I had never done it before, that it was too scary, or anything else of all of those things that could have come to mind, I wouldn't have seen those results. These behaviors and beliefs change as we change. And we need to edit these on a regular basis. We need to look at these differently when our world changes, which right now is changing all the time. It's okay to change them. It's okay to upgrade and expand as your who changes. And I was at a place in my life when I was ready to do that. But I was also at a really messy time. I mean, I had really big dreams, but I was struggling too. I was really successful and super messy at the same time. Everyone at some point in their life is probably in a pretty big mess. And it's important for us to identify that, acknowledge that we're in a mess and what stage of the mess we're in. We might be at the beginning of a mess, we might be in the midst of it, or we might be coming out of it. But once we acknowledge that, we can give our mess some infinite meaning that's going to allow us to affect change. Sometimes our goals have a finite meaning, but the way that we approach change has an infinite meaning. And so if you allow yourself to do that and not let it define you, rather guide you, you can open up your view and open up your perspective. So like I mentioned, I'm a sucker for words. So here we go with another word, the word possibility. This actually came up in our small group breakout today. The word possibility is something that we don't always necessarily embrace, but it's a mindset. It's a belief in ourselves. It's our fuel to power opportunities. And it's really easy to dismiss, especially now. And many times we don't believe that it's out there. If we're able to acknowledge it and give ourselves credit, then we can say that there's possibility even right now, even when it's hard. And so this is an interesting nugget of information. Some researchers state that the average person has more than 50,000 thoughts per day, 80% of them being negative and 95% of them being repetitive. That's a lot of negative thoughts on repeat every single day. So it's no wonder that 500 years ago, Michael de Montaigne said, "My life has been filled with terrible misfortune, most of which never happened." Now, here's another word for you. The word empowered evokes a feeling. It's actually a verb. So it means a few different things: having the knowledge, the confidence, the means or ability to do something or make decisions for oneself. Or it could also mean giving someone the authority or power to do something, or even making someone stronger, more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. So this resonates with people. Like, that feeling of empowerment is motivating, and it provides kind of a confidence boost, right? You kind of stand up straighter just saying the word, right? Empowered. So we connect that thought with a feeling of empowerment, but now what? Well, here's another word for you. There's a reason that marketers use the word super to convey a powerful message. Super size, supernatural, superfood, super highway, super cuts. So as an adjective, it means like high quality or high grade or quality, which, okay, that sounds fine. But as an adverb correlated to action, it's very, extremely, to an excessive degree, exceeding the norm and surpassing all or most others of its kind. So now take that feeling of empowerment and you add super to it. That means you're going all in. That's super powered. And that's not giving it away to someone else. It's showing your uniqueness and your power above all else. I like to call it an audacious spark with positive intent. Now, we all have these innate gifts that throughout our lives we can use to navigate those typically unknown waters, right? Just like we're doing right now. These are the things that are going to allow us to access fulfillment, happiness, success. So if you think about what gifts you have that allow you to surpass all or most others of their kind, how do you tap into this? How do you shift it without it feeling like an act of superhuman strength? There's this place, it's called the superpowered zone. Now, how you get there, if you look on this beautiful diagram here, it's not a straight line at all. All the directions are going to change. They're going to pivot along the way, and you're going to go in and out of that comfort zone. Like in fitness, when you're working out, you're actually stretching your muscles, you're tearing them apart, and you're going in and out of that comfort. But in order to do that, you have to feel uncomfortable in order to get stronger. That's just how it works. And I show this to you because even though it looks like it's all over the place, there's a consistency here. There's a common thread, and there are those breadcrumbs that along the way are going to help you get to the big dream, but you need to find that. Those pivots are the power steps towards your dream. And the way that you do this is to discover, is to take some time and understand what are those talents, those skills, those gifts. These are the things that not only are you good at, but they add value to other people's lives. Scary for some people. I had a client one time that told me that discover felt like, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Discover felt like lurking or seeing something in the dark that was really scary. So by definition, they didn't like the word discover. But for me, it's about curiosity. It's about seeking understanding and looking for something really valuable. So talents are like a natural aptitude or a skill. Well, then skill is the ability to do something well or have an expertise. But gifts are something that you share. They're meant to be shared. And so, to be clear, I don't think that everyone is actually great at everything. Me personally, I'm a terrible dancer. That is not a gift that I would want to share with the world. But I've also learned from every single thing that I've tried. And so the key here is to be okay with seeing what works and what doesn't, not only in your life, but also in your business. So your gifts may not show up to the naked eye. And sometimes you need an opportunity, like a pandemic, to show you how they're going to reveal themselves. Change or pivots are going to show this to you, like those breadcrumbs that I mentioned. They're a thread to build a stronger fabric for you. So in 1996, I graduated college and I had 2 degrees. I was ready to move to LA and jump into the entertainment business as a freelance wardrobe stylist, which I did while waiting tables, just like everybody else in the entertainment industry. Until 2000, when I decided that I wanted a real job. But I remember being really worried about the fact that my experience till then had been so specific. It had been only in a very unique industry. And I didn't really know what I could showcase about myself to get a new opportunity. And so I remember being worried about that or feeling like I was so different. And so I asked my dad for some help, and he has been a mentor of mine since I was young. And, he was really good at trying to see things differently for me. And so I remember him telling me, don't worry about what it is that's on paper. What is it that you can bring to the table? What is it that you bring that's so unique and so different as an opportunity for them that any company would want to hire you? Those were my gifts. And I remember that idea of changing the way that I looked at myself. And so what those opportunities were became more and more apparent. So I decided to use them as ways to step into something completely different. I realized I had a gift in communication. I realized that I had a gift to share my voice. And so I pursued a whole new career in marketing and communication. But I didn't really put all the pieces together at that time until over the years that I've used that as a way to continually pivot and find new direction in my own business. And so when you're really good at something, but you don't enjoy it, that's also a really important thing to consider. The root of a gift to be shared is actually rooted in a sense of joy. So the superpowered approach doesn't work if it doesn't have the root of joy. It's the common denominator. It's the differentiator. And so once you discover it, once you decide, right, that decision or choice that it's possible, like I did when I decided to go after a whole new career, then you can hone it. Then you can cultivate it and you can bring it to life. Now, this also exists within a team environment, and I bring this up because a lot of people come to me when they're talking about, how do I use this to now also motivate my team and impact other people? Because that can be really, really hard. I understand that as well. And so if you're leading a team, the common struggle is trying to get them to lead too. So I like to think about it like on a bus. You've got a bus of people. Some of them want to be the driver. Some of them want to be in a different seat than where they are. And some of them want to get off the bus. The opportunity here is don't force it. Ask good questions, seek those answers, discover those ideas like gold. These are the breadcrumbs or the keys to helping you better understand your team, other people, versus taking it personally. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I am a born communicator and I love talking. And so whether it's in front of people, on the phone, on my podcast, I spent many years in marketing and communication for both the corporate and the nonprofit sector. And in 2017, I was laid off from a C-level position in the nonprofit, which was really tough. It was the second time I've actually been through a layoff. And what I realized after many years of self-work, very intentional focus on a positive mindset was that I had an opportunity to stop. I actually had an opportunity to pause for a moment and think about what was next versus react in a negative mindset, feeling very down, and respond in a way that wasn't going to bring me joy. And I stopped and I gave myself some time to think. And what I did was I developed 2 lists. I developed a joy list and I developed a list of my gifts. And I sat down with them and I really wanted to understand better what was it that I wanted to bring to the world and how could I impact people and combine those 2 things. And what I discovered were some common threads, and they were rooted in joy. And I did things that I didn't think were even possible. I created what I call superpowered opportunities. And I took intentional action to bring them to life. And the way that I did that was aim, fire, ready. I changed that around because I knew that I was capable of doing it. And I knew that it was something that I could do well. And I also knew it would bring me joy. And one of the things that I did, and I mentioned before, was I started a podcast. And the funny thing about starting a podcast, it's kind of like stepping up to the plate with 0 on the board for results. I had 0 listeners when I started my podcast, just like everybody else. And starting something knowing that nobody is listening is really, really hard when you're a born communicator. But I knew how important it would be. And I think about that in a sports environment. How many teams walk onto the field with points on the board? Nobody. It starts with 0. And when you recognize that, then you're not putting the end result in front of your action. So what happens though is things get in the way. There are barriers to all of the things that we want to do. And it's really difficult to turn those possibilities into action when we have a barrier, right? You think about it, there are things that are causing us to decide, those thoughts in our head, that something isn't possible. And there are 3 main barriers to opportunity are fear, overwhelm, and burnout. There's a quote that I really enjoy. It says that obstacles are those frightening things you see when you take your eye off the target. How true is that? So this is when we go into more of a survival mentality versus what I like to call thrival mentality. There's a significant difference. And when you're in a survival mentality, especially now, that fear comes up, the overwhelm takes over, and the burnout happens. But I believe that barriers exist as opportunities for us to overcome, as opportunities for us to learn and to grow. And there are some super powered ways that we can tackle them. So the first one is fear. Now, there's 2 kinds of fear. There's physical fear, which is like coming upon this buffalo in the middle of the road. You might want to run the other direction. That's a physical fear, a natural response. Emotional fear is in our head. It's not real. We might have a response to it. We might get a little sweaty. We might feel butterflies, or we might, not want to do something, but it's a choice. And it's typically a choice because of what we fear or what we think other people might see or might perceive about us. And so this quote here by Deepak Chopra is so relevant. What people think of you is none of your business. That is one way for us to start to change the game when it comes to fear. It's basically like a condition. It's like a virus that's really hard to get rid of. I call it compare and despair. Compare and despair comes up more when we're struggling. We want to feel more empowered and more confident, but when we put ourselves in the lineup next to other people, whether it's our business, whether it's on social media, or even just trying to learn something new, it's really easy to get stuck and not feel the empowerment to do anything productive or positive. We got to stop looking at that highlight reel. I like to say, be brave enough to suck at something new. We're so quick to pounce on ourselves or even each other when we don't do something. Those words like, I suck, are more frequent than I believe. So if we figure out the root of our fear and be honest with ourselves and hold that mirror up, we can ask better questions and get much better responses. And so when we acknowledge it and we remind ourselves that we've done something scary, we've all done something scary in our lives and it worked out. And maybe not every single time, but when it did, that's the feeling that we want. We remove the fear of other people seeing us fail. Remove the idea that getting it right is more important than doing it at all. The superpowered approach to overcoming fear is to build resilience. The more you do it, the more you build resilience. It's over and over again. Keep going. Be consistent. Just like in a workout, how do you build muscle? How do you run further? Do you wake up and now you can just run farther? You've got to build that resilience. I used to actually train for marathons and I hated running. I hated it. But when I did it, I knew I could do more the next week. And so when I ran my first K after having my son 16 years ago, my only intention was just don't stop. Just don't stop running. I didn't care how fast I was or what my time was. And it became a reminder for me in other things. Just don't stop. It didn't matter how fast I was going. And when you don't, then if you don't stop, then you remind yourself that you want to keep going. That mindset rules your action. Build resilience like a rubber band. It's how quickly you can snap back. When we're kids, we do this all the time, right? You hear people say, kids are so resilient, right? They get right back up again. But as adults, we're jaded and we're fearful and we put that in the way. Positive thinking helps build more resilience. Now, the second barrier is overwhelm. You can't control where you're going until you control how you want to get there. Overwhelm isn't a thing. Overwhelm is actually, by definition, an inversion. It's a modifier of something else. You can be overwhelmed by something, overwhelmed by your schedule, overwhelmed by your task list, overwhelmed by your dishes. There's a lot of things out there that can create a sense of overwhelm. But like driving a car, you've got an idea of where you want to go and that route to get there. So you know how to operate a vehicle, right? When you get into your car, you probably know how to turn it on and operate it mechanically. And there's a very strong likelihood that you're going to get to that destination despite all of the other things going on around you, right? You're in the driver's seat. So the superpowered approach to dealing with overwhelm is take the wheel. Decide that is your wheel to take and take the control, remove the distractions and choose the destination for that day or for that week or even for that hour. You get to choose what it is that you want to focus on. Those to-do lists, they're full of pressure and guilt, right? When we see them, when we wake up in the morning, immediately you've decided that it's not possible. Take control of what it is that you're going to look at then, right? One of the tips that I like to do is I like to keep my list hidden except for 3 things. What are the 3 things that I'm going to focus on? I can put everything on that list, but I'm going to hide it. I'm going to remove it from my view, and I'm going to decide that there's only 3 things that I'm going to focus on. And when I get one of those done, I can replace it with another, but I'm only going to look at those 3. That's something that my brain can deal with, right? I'm reducing the amount of stuff coming into my view. Make a list, keep it totally separate, view those 3 things because you get to choose. The second tip to dealing with overwhelm is decide that if it's not something that you're going to do, there's 4 things you can do with it. You can automate it, you can delegate it, you can outsource it, or you can delete it. You've got 4 choices if you're not the one that's going to handle it. Those 4 things will help you take the wheel and take control. Now, the third barrier is burnout. Burnout is usually at the point where the thought or the belief is that there's no other options, that you're done. It's no longer bringing you joy. Nobody grows in a box. Like a fishbowl, you adapt to the space that you give to yourself. The opposite of burnout is engagement. This superpowered approach is to engage and let go. Find the joy, give yourself permission to be present and play with possibility. Be okay with seeing what works and also what doesn't. These experiences shine a light on those opportunities for you to learn. Remember that 20%? Wouldn't it be great if it was 25% of positive ideas or thoughts, or 30% or 50%? I used to listen to a lot of different things. I used to read a lot of books, go to lectures, go to the different seminars, so on and so on. And I felt empowered, which was awesome. But I didn't do anything with it because I didn't feel that I was different. I didn't feel that I was worth it. I didn't see and believe in the value of my efforts. I put all the barriers in the way. I put them all in the way of the path that I wanted to go down until I discovered more of what was possible. When I decided to start my business, I reached out to people that I really felt understood more about me than maybe I did for myself. And I received an amazing recommendation on LinkedIn. This was back in 2017 by a friend of mine, a mentor of mine. His name is Steve Farber. And he wrote on LinkedIn a recommendation for me that said, Robyn is a triple threat. She has a gift for numbers and data, a love for the people she serves, and a warm, engaging personality that draws people to her. Combine all of that with a wealth of experience in both the field and the C-suite, and you'll see that she is a rare find indeed. And I was amazed. I, first of all, thought being called a triple threat was pretty cool. But also, he pointed out some things that I didn't really shine a light on for myself that truly were my gifts. And the thing that he said so significantly when he called me a rare find, I knew from that point on, not only did I want it to be the name of my business, but the reason why was because I wanted everybody else to feel like a rare find. I didn't realize how impactful that was for me to feel like I was a rare find in this world, whether it would be in a relationship or as a parent or in my business. I want everybody to feel like they are a rare find. Now, these are just concepts. These are ideas. These are ways to look at things differently and try them out. I like to offer this as practical advice for you so that when you're ready, when you have clients, when you have customers or patients and they need you, that you see the opportunity for you to create the business that you love to support the solutions that they need. There's an analogy that I really love from Seth Godin that basically says, your job isn't to convince people that you or your product is great. He says that it isn't you making a key and looking for a lock that fits, but looking at the different locks and seeing how you can bring the right key. How does this resonate with you? How does this resonate with your business? this is the way that you can show up and you can use your gifts as the right key. So I want to share with you 3 secrets to being superpowered. The first one, we avoid change because it's hard and we think we're doing it wrong. My belief is that this is the price of admission for a life that's not mediocre. The second secret, fear doesn't have to stop you. It's actually the only thing that gets smaller as you approach it. The third secret, self-confidence is a renewable resource. It never runs out. But how we tap into it is important. Show up confidently until you're more confident. Keep doing it. If you want to succeed, you want to do something different, think different, then you need to work at it. Without the judgment and the shame, you put yourself first and you choose. Putting your mind to it helps, but it has to be intentional. And if you leave here today with something that you can apply or use or try out and learn from, I'm really, really happy that you came today. There's no doubt that you can affect change. The question is, are you going to wait or create? So I don't know if we have time to open it up for questions, but if you'd like to connect with me, there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. And what I would love to know is, how can I support you? Do you want me to stop sharing, Kathy? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there. If you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question to Robyn. And
Hi, Robyn, it's Lupe. I'm just wondering, you talked a little bit about your lists. Can you tell me more about that? So for example, okay, I have things that bring me joy, but when I think about myself, and I think a lot of people have had this, you know, it's hard for us to think about what our gifts are, right?
Yeah, so like I said, I like having them as 2 separate lists, but what's really cool is I kind of play with it as circles. So for example, you draw circles like the Olympic rings that have intersections, right? This is actually a fun activity you can do with yourself. You can even do with your kids. And you think about the things that you're really good at and the things that bring you joy, and you put them into a concentric circle, right, where they intersect. And you think about ideas of ways that you can do those things together. So for example, I love fitness, right? I love fitness. It brings me a lot of joy, and it is something that I'm good at. And I also really love food. So sometimes those things can be in conflict. But what I like to do is think about, how can I combine those 2 things to share with other people? That could be in the form of coming up with some really, you know, fun recipe ideas of how I put together my smoothies in the morning and share them with people on social media, right? Posting a smoothie recipe, which not only is, there you go, oh my gosh, you've got one right there, to give them ideas or inspiration, but it's also going to put me into intentional action to make sure that I'm making my smoothies to fuel my fitness goals for the day or for the week, but I'm sharing it with other people. That's not necessarily part of my business, but it is something that I know that I can give back to and share with other people that's extremely genuine to me. So that's one way to kind of play around with it, maybe come up with like 3 to 5 different things that you enjoy and that you're good at, and just start putting them together and making a list of ideas of how you can use them to either share in your business, impact a customer or a client, or impact, you know, people at home. And I'm going to quickly expand on something, because this is genuinely a philosophy that I really use in my life, is that I don't separate out or compartmentalize my personal life, professional life, social life, family life. Like they're not different lives. We have one life. And so when we work on ourselves and we figure these things out and we don't segment them, then we realize how we show up to our job or our business is a different environment with different people, but it's motivated by who we are and how we work on ourselves. And so all of these things that we might be looking to improve, they're going to show up and impact our business, impact the way that we're parenting, impact the way that we're engaging with other people. And so just focus on I'll focus on you, and those gifts and those joys and all of those things are going to have an impact in all the areas that you desire. So that was kind of an expanded response to your question, Lupe.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
So I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to kind of share something that resonated when you shared your story, excuse me, about starting out on something brand new with fitness after 40, because I actually, same as you, have never really been athletic or into fitness or anything. But when I was 42, I did a half marathon, and it was something that never in my life would I ever think I'd be able to do. And I worked toward it, and I'm not a runner. I actually walked it, but I did it, and it was absolutely amazing. So there's, like you said, there's no age limit. Like there's nothing that you can't do at any time if your mindset and your goal is to do it. So that, I just thought that was awesome that you shared that. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much for sharing that. It's absolutely 1000% true. And honestly, it is so scary to sometimes even think about the idea. I had never even run until after I had my son, and I was in my mid-30s. And so the idea of all of those things every single time brought me fear, brought me, practically to tears. Yeah. And the way that you showed up and said, this is how you're going to do it, and now it's going to motivate you to do something else, that's remarkable. Yeah. And I think about that when I think about, starting something new with my business, or getting on the phone sometimes with a new client that might be, in my brain, out of my league or bigger than what I was thinking. I think about, well, I did that before, I can do this. Yeah. Just try it, and don't worry about what other people are going to think, because guarantee you're going to walk away with something really valuable from that experience.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
All right, we'll turn it over to Brett now. Thank you, Robyn, very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Robyn, so much. That was very inspiring. I've got a list of notes for my own use here personally. I love your concept of going from empowered to superpowered. And I love we recorded this for those of you that don't know, and this will be posted on our webinar page on our website probably by Monday, maybe later today, but I'm actually going to go back and watch again because the content was excellent, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate you as a member, but B, this presentation was excellent, and thank you so much for sharing with us today and doing that. So, and while I'm on that topic of webinars and what's on our website, we have lots of content out there that we've been gathering since the pandemic hit, and we've moved to a lot of this virtual world. So there's all kinds of great content on our webinar page. I encourage you to go and peruse it occasionally. There's marketing workshops and webinars that we've held, social media. Of course, there's a lot of stuff related to early on to the PPP program and other loan programs. but there's legal updates that we've held recently, all kinds of great content, and I'd encourage you to go and check it out, because obviously you can watch it at your leisure at whatever time is convenient for you, whether that's late in an evening, early in a morning, or whenever, midday. We have some great events coming up that I want to make you aware of. Our State of the Community event, which is typically our biggest luncheon of the year that we hold. It's going to be August 21st. And, you know, last year we had over 500 people at the West End, but obviously we can't do that this year. So it's going to be on Zoom. Mayor Matt Hall will be giving a keynote presentation on the state of our city, but we also have 3 different panel discussions that you can choose from to sit in and participate in. So the panel discussions, one is going to be on the state of business during this time of COVID, this healthcare, or education. So you can pick one of the 3 before Mayor Matt Hall's keynote presentation. And we're going to record all 3 of them. And so if you register for this webinar, for the event, you will have the opportunity to participate in one live, and then you'll have the recording of all 3. And so you can check out what the other ones were saying. So some of our guest speakers on those panel discussions, we have the general manager from Legoland. We have a restaurant owner from Carlsbad, right here from Carlsbad on the business panel. We have a doctor from Scripps, a doctor from Tri-City, hopefully somebody from the research side of things, maybe from Thermo Fisher on the healthcare one. And then our Dr. Ben Churchill, Dr. Sunny Cook from Maricosta, and others on the education panel. So it's going to be a great, great topics, great discussion, all extremely timely. August 21st. The cost to participate in this event is $25, so it's very reasonable, and we'd encourage you to sign up for that today. The details are on our website, and you can do that. See what else am I missing? Oh, and then a week from Saturday, so Saturday's tomorrow. So a week from tomorrow, we are co-hosting with several of our fellow chambers in North County, a reopen rally. And the point of the rally is to, our keynote speaker at the reopen rally will be Supervisor Jim Desmond. And the messaging that we intend to share is centered around his main point these last few months, that businesses and schools can be safe and open. And we really want to encourage people to come together to rally for that messaging point, and to encourage our governor basically to give us the opportunity. You know, you look at some of our sectors that are still almost virtually shut down, like hair salons and nail salons, or, you know, places that are struggling to kind of get to the outdoors, like our fitness things, or, you know, some of them are getting there, some of them are not. And there's other sectors, of course, beyond those. You know, some restaurants, it's not that convenient to get an outdoor patio or dining. And so, you know, this is challenging times. We want to rally together for our business members and talk about how we can. Now, the messaging is we can be safe and open. So we're going to be following safety protocols at the rally. The rally is from 10 to noon at the shops at Carlsbad in the parking lot. We'll have several guest speakers, including some business owners themselves. And of course, as I mentioned, Supervisor Jim Desmond, possibly Supervisor Kristen Gaspar. We're still working on that as well. But we encourage you to come out and rally. We're also discussing or looking into the possibilities of broadcasting that live on our Facebook page. We're not sure there's enough bandwidth where we're going to be in the parking lot to make that happen, but we're working on it. So, you know, but again, join us in a way that follows the health protocols. You know, we want to be respectful of everybody. So, you know, if you could mask up and, you know, keep distance from those outside of your family group, you know, at least 6 feet, but we can rally together to rally for business, rally for schools, so that, you know, we can move this along. You know, it's really important to get this economy going again. There's a lot of livelihoods at stake, and we're not here being anti-government, but we're here to support our next door neighbor whose livelihood is in jeopardy, or your neighbor across the street whose business is struggling because of these shutdowns. So that's the point of the rally. We hope you join us. we have several virtual chamber plates coming up, and I would encourage you to go to the chamber's calendar of events on our website, which of course our website is carlsbad.org. It couldn't be any simpler than that. Go to carlsbad.org, click on the calendar events, which is in our top navigation, and you can see a list of upcoming events. If you've never done a chamber plates, whether virtual or in person, it's a nice small group networking opportunity where it's very casual. You get to kind of go deeper with folks because it's intimate, and there's no like heavy agenda, but it gives you a great chance to meet people. What I love about those kind of events is that it's where you can develop relationships, which then can develop referral channels, which then can develop long-term, business partnerships. So I love those kinds of events and encourage you to check them out. Some of the things coming up on our calendar of events, though, that I'll share with you, our Young Professionals group is doing a networking virtual tour events at an aquaponics center. So that's coming up on August 13th. We have a coffee. I mentioned chamber plates, but we also have our own virtual coffee connection with Janny Jackson. Janny was involved in the event this morning. Thank you, Janny, for being there and hosting that. That's on August 14th. And our next virtual webinar will be on, the title is Follow-Up Strategies That Will Get More Clients and Close More Sales. And that's on the 18th of August. So look for that on our website as well. So all kinds of good stuff. There's more than just that, but I don't want to just blab on and on because I've done enough blabbing already. Hey, we appreciate you guys all participating in doing this. We got to stick together. We got to keep working together so that we can all, survive, thrive through this and get to the other side and strong as a community, strong as businesses, and keep people employed, keep our economy ticking along. So thank you for joining us, and a special thank you to Robyn for her excellent content today. I'm done, Kathy.
Thank you everyone for coming. We're going to end a few minutes early today. If you have any other questions and want to stay on to ask Robyn, feel free. But thank you again for coming to our first Friday breakfast.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great seeing everybody.
Have a good weekend. Nice job, Robyn.
Have a good weekend,
Excellent.
everyone.
Have a good weekend. And a really great job, Robyn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent,
Yeah,
Robyn.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Robyn.